Me too. Me too. All right. Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to Coffee with a Cowgirl. I am Breck Kruger. I hope everybody had an amazing 4th of July, that you got to enjoy the hot weather. We had hot weather here, that you got to enjoy friends, families, a little bit of R&R, and celebrate our great country. I am so excited for today. I met Chateece it was in last September. And from the inception of the idea of Coffee with a Cowgirl, I knew that Chateece was on my list of people that I would love to interview, love to have her share her story. She's an amazing woman, amazing, faithful woman who has an incredible story. I want to give Chateece a minute so she can introduce herself, tell us a little bit about her family, where they reside, her background, her education, etc. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Chateece.
Okay. I'm from Kansas. We just moved to Seymour, Texas, in the north part of Texas, about a month ago, Memorial Weekend. Married to Corey Rickard, fabulous horseman and just a wonderful man of God, and a great husband and father. We have 4 boys, Sam 15, Ace is 12, and then we have twins, Tag and Trey, that are 8. We, for the past 19 years, have lived in the southwest corner of Kansas. My husband worked and managed, or was foreman on a ranch there, and trained horses. And again, that's how I met Breck, was when we went. Many people know that we sold Willie, Corey's horse, they were well known in our area and in the ranch horse world. So I think in September is when I met Breck, and that was a fun time for us, a big time for us. And then who knew that this is where it would lead us, but here we are. I taught, just finished my 13th year of teaching special education. There isn't a job here for me right now, but I'll sub and still be involved in the school. But Corey was offered a job down here managing a feed yard for our friends that just bought this lot. And so after a lot of prayer and friends and family coming alongside, we felt led to move. And so we left family behind, we left friends behind, and we trusted that God wanted us to be here. So since we've lived in this Seymour area, we've already found a church, and we've met wonderful people, very accepting of us, and we look forward to what the future holds for us down here.
So Chateece, you got 4 boys, and they range in age from
15, 12, and the twins are 8.
Yes. And you you are a teacher working in what grades? What did you teach, Chateece?
I had high school. The last 7 years, or 6 years, I've done high school. Okay. I did 7 years of elementary when the boys were little, before I had kids, and when Sam and Ace were young. So.
Well, as Chateece said, and I said earlier, that I met Chateece and Corey. We actually met Corey first. We were at a horse sale in Fort Worth last September, and Brandon and the boys and I were out riding in the warm-up pen, and Corey was out there riding his horse, Willie. And, if you know me, you know that I can't even stop myself from talking to people if I wanted to. And if they're riding an extremely nice horse, it makes it even harder for me. So we watched Corey riding in his horse, Willie, and he was just amazing. So Brandon and I went over and talked to him and kind of got a little background on the horse and what Corey had done with him. Corey is an extremely humble man, so kind. You could tell that he had a lot of pride in what he did with his horse. So kind of got to know him throughout the weekend, just because he's a nice guy, and he did such a good job with Willie. And I remember talking to Corey right before Willie sold and kind of was like, what do you think? And what would you be happy with? And he came out, and I remember walking over to him, and I was like, well, how did it go? And he's like, I got in there and I didn't want to sell him. He did say that. He didn't want to sell him. And he brought a lot of money, which was amazing. And I think he found a really good home too, which was probably very important to your family. And I walked away and I said to Brayden, I'm like, I just have to go tell him good job one more time before we leave. And because you always be happy for those people who you guys were shooting for the stars, right, Chateece? And you got it. It was so cool. And all the boys were around the horse, and you just walked up. I said to Chateece, I'm like, God, I hope I don't cry in this, because it just is so cool to see things like this happen, right? Because you don't ever think it's going to be you, and then it is you. So it was really cool. And I walked over there, and Chateece introduced herself, and I met all the boys, and they were so kind and so polite, and just beautiful little souls. Like, my kids would have been like, let us on the horse, let us ride the horse. And your kids all just stood there so kindly and followed their dad's lead. And I just said, I'm so happy for you guys, Corey. I'm so glad I got to meet you. And Corey said to me, you have no idea what this amount of money means to our family. And I'm like, well, I think I kind of have an idea. It's a large amount, right? And he said, you guys have spent, Chateece, I don't know why I'm crying.
It'll be all right.
But anyway, Corey said we had a lot of debt with the boys because the twin boys were born prematurely, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The boys were born prematurely. We had a lot of debt with doctor bills, he said. So for a long time, we've just been paying those bills, and Willie will help us be able to do other things. And it was just so cool. And I'm like, oh, wish you would have never even told me that, Corey, because it was just way awesome. And then on the way home, because I just thought so much of Chateece and Corey, and the other thing that ran through my head when I met Chateece for the first time is I wish that I could be that mom that she is, because her boys were just so, like, just so polite and kind and well-mannered, and mine are hellions. And, Chateece just, she had it all together, and you always hope to be somebody better than you are, right? And I seen that in Chateece. And anyhow, on the way home from the horse sale, I got on Facebook, and we became friends on Facebook. And Chateece, I messaged Chateece on the way home, and I said, I'm so glad that I met you guys. I'm so happy for you, especially after hearing your story. I mean, God works in amazing ways. And Chateece messaged me back, and she said, I believe in God. I think it was something along the lines, I believe God, puts people in front of you for a reason. And she said, somebody once said to me, we're fast friends. And she goes, that's what I think about you. We're fast friends now. So it was a few months after that, I feel like, it was probably longer than that, I think it was this winter sometime, kind of just questioning everything I was doing. I was kind of in the middle of quitting my job, and I really wasn't sure. I knew I wanted to do more things. And I got on Facebook, and I'm scrolling through it, and Chateece has a post on there, and it was about sobriety. And it was her story. about 6 years, right, Chateece?
Coming up, that was 6 years. That would have been October. Probably my 6 year post. So this October will be 7 years.
So I read through it and I was bawling because you never know anybody's story. And she talked in that post about her walk with God and how she got better. And I messaged her right away and I said, Chateece, I've got so much respect for you, and you never know what fire somebody has walked through to get to where they are today, and how some of those very unfun experiences shape who you are. Your faith, I follow you enough to know that your faith right now is giving you everything to get through this. And it definitely seems unwavering. And I just think it should be shared. Your story should be shared because there are people who are out there that are going through the same thing as you. And you did the same thing that you did. And your experience is going to help someone. And when I asked Chateece to do this, I'm like, I know that this is probably really tough. Maybe you don't want to do it, but if you have any interest, please let me know. And she messaged me back right away and she said, God gave me this story to help others. And it's awesome. So Chateece, I will give it back to you and let you go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. That was so kind. And I'm so glad that the boys act well behaved in public. I think that's what we all shoot for. Because there are definitely those moments at home that they've been up to a lot of stories, and that would be its own broadcast of boys. You know, you have boy stories. So.
I do. Mine usually act really good at home and not very good when we're away.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Yeah, opposite.
So, but Corey does a great job as far as training them, and so together we just try to do the best we can, and that's all you can do when you're raising children is ask for God to help you and do your best. But I think I'll start with, I've had, looking back, a long history of drinking behaviors, I guess. I definitely drank more than I should have. But I'll just fast forward to 2014. Sam was 8, Ace was 5, and the twins were not quite 18 months old. And I had been to treatment twice before that. And I'd been able to stay sober a year, a couple different times in between that. And so everybody knew, that I had a problem, but I definitely, for lack of a better phrase, fallen way off the wagon. So in 2014, I'm drinking every day. Some of you, if you're watching or have experience with this, you know what I'm talking about. I don't spend a lot of time because I don't want to glorify the sin, but it was bad. And I was sneaking off to town. I'd buy groceries. I'd get cash to go right to the liquor store, and I was buying jugs of it. I was waking up at 4 a.m, shaking, sweating, throwing up. Couldn't eat a whole lot at that point. I'd wait for Corey to get in the shower so I could sneak in my bathroom. His bathroom was downstairs. I had it hidden all over the house. He can't smell very well. And a lot of people would say, how come you can't tell? And he talks about that. And his story is very powerful too, because God did a work in him, and he needs so much credit because he dealt with a lot. And that's what upsets me the most, is that the man I love the most was treated that way. My children were treated that way, my family, my friends. So it was bad. I would drive in blackouts. Couldn't remember getting home, and there were my babies in the back. Suicidal. I oftentimes would think there was no way out but to die. I was mad at God. I would cry out to him, if you're so powerful, why can't you make me stop this? And then I'd drink again. pass out at night. It was bad. And many of my family and friends watching right now can probably go back to that moment. And it's not important to me to talk about that so that I go, the reason I want to look back at that is because I don't want to go back there again. There was shame and guilt and a heaviness. I looked awful. I'd lost weight, but my face was swollen, and I was speaking alcohol out of my pores. And at that time, I didn't know why. I wished it on my sisters even. I thought, I believe it's genetic. I have alcoholism on my side of the family, on my dad's side. But I'd wish, why can't you give this to them? They're stronger than me. Couldn't look at myself in the mirror. When I'd get ready in the morning, I had a door that would open partially, and I would stand like this because I just used to get my makeup on, and I couldn't look at myself. I was so disgusted with myself. I wasn't well. And I made a fool of myself in public. So October 11, 2014, we were at home. The boys had been in a rodeo club, and they had their banquet that night, 𝚘𝚘𝚗𝚎. And so Corey went on down with the boys, and there was a dance and a family gathering, and my mom was in town with us, and she was at our house, and I couldn't even go. I had to be drunk to go. And so I thought this is a lie. And that's why alcohol is, we say in anonymous meetings, is cunning, baffling, and powerful. But in my mind, I could drink to a certain level and then I could go out, but that wasn't true. I really made a fool of myself and my family. So Mom came in, and I'd gone past that limit and passed out on the floor. So this would have been before Sam and Ace came in, because they came in and I can't remember if it was Sam or Ace thought I was dead, and in the fog I could hear, has she gone to be with the angels? And they thought I was dead. And at that point, I was a horrible mom. I was irritable. I was sick. And I know people thought, why doesn't she just quit? She has this beautiful family, but I couldn't. And that's the power of addiction. It's a slow fade. There's that Christian song that talks about a slow fade when you give yourself away, and it slowly consumes you until you're physically addicted. And detoxing from alcohol is not fun. I hallucinated at one point. I lost control of my bodily functions. My sister had to clean me up one time. It's ugly and it's powerful. And I've always thought that I was a strong person. I've been through a lot. I made bad decisions as a young adult. And my story is very long, and the things God has saved me from. But I wasn't powerful enough for this. And God was there the whole time, but I just couldn't drop it and reach out until October of 2014. So, Mom drove me on down there to the place. I think she was trying to just get me up and to help me make myself presentable, but I couldn't even get out of the car, and Corey came out and said, take her home. And so Mom took me home, and he sent the boys home with his mom and dad. And that was on a Saturday night. So Sunday I wake up detoxing. My mom's there. Corey said, I'm not bringing the boys back, and you need to move out. Monday, so Sunday's a long day of violently throwing up, can't get out of bed, crying, that I'd done before, promising I won't drink again, just give me another chance. And Monday he went to town, and he came back and he said, I filed for divorce. And that was it for me. I threw up some more. Of course, I was sick anyway. He got sick. So I packed a few things, and my mom lived in town 17 miles from us. So I went to her apartment. He wouldn't let me talk to the boys. And so this would have been October 13th. And then I went ahead and called and got back into treatment. So October 16th, my mom drove me up to a treatment center in northern Kansas. On the way there, she was talking about how beautiful the trees were, and look at the leaves, and I just thought, I wish they'd die. I felt so dead. I don't care about pretty trees. And my mom is the sweetest person ever, and she was telling me, the 40s are I turned 40 that year. 40s are your year. This is when it's going to happen for you. I believe that. Right. I got out of the car and went in, and then she left. And I had a roommate in my room. It was room 16 on October 16, and my grandpa, who's very important, he's gone now, but his birthday's on the 16th, so to me, that all had something to do. And I remember being on my knees on my bed, just crying out to God, crying out to Jesus to help me. Laying it at the cross is what I had to do. And I got up and I felt like I didn't know for sure. I did not believe that the man who stood at the altar with me and said he'd love me for the rest of my life was completely done. But I felt a sense of I don't have to drink again. And that was the first time I felt that in all these years of trying to get sober. And even though God has been reaching out all those times saying, here I am, my daughter, that was the first time that I was able to lift up my arms and feel his presence. So the next few days were not fun. I had mostly detoxed, so I didn't have the physical sickness, but Corey wouldn't talk to me. And my counselor tried to call him, and he said, no, I don't want anything. In the meantime, what you should know about him was he was going to Christian counseling. He was receiving help from his family. His mom came and stayed with the boys so that he could continue to work. His boss and his wife was very supportive. Things were going on at home that could not have, that were very important behind the scenes. And again, I can't go on and on enough about how supportive Corey has been, and my family and friends who continue to pray. I stayed 3 weeks there, and I came back, and he still didn't. We met because I had to fill out paperwork at the lawyer's office. So we met in town, and he still said, I don't know if I can trust you yet to come back to the house. But 3 days later, he let me back in. And I jokingly say, and not to undermine this, but that I was so irresistible that he just had to have me back. And I only say that to try to make him laugh. But we went to Christian counseling, and then I feel like that first year just really flew by. And I started going to meetings in town. But God gave me the strength, has given me the strength, and now I'm coming up on 7 years of, hasn't been easy. It's not an easy thing because you're so used to the daily drinking. Even 2 or 3 years in, I remember reaching for alcohol in the mornings out of habit. It becomes such a habit, and it's just physically powerful also.
You know, Chateece, as we were waiting for 10 o'clock to come around, some of your friends were coming on, and I asked you if you knew them, and you're like, yes. You were telling me about the people who were coming on. Some of them were ones who have helped you through this, and how important it is to have such a strong support system. And Rhonda was one you said was your sister in Christ and somebody that you leaned on heavily. Talk about how important that is to surround yourself with those good people.
That is in my list of, this is what I would do if I were, this is what I did. The first thing was to cry out to Jesus. I say that a lot. Just cry out. Sometimes it's hard to do that, but he's listening and he's all around. And you know, there's a saying in our meetings, I can't, he can, I'm going to let him. Whatever you need, just the crying out, the saying, I'm sorry, the first accepting him as your Lord and Savior, and then just saying, help me, Lord. But also, I immediately found a Bible study group. Well, actually, I was invited into a Bible study group, and that was hard for me because when you come home from being to treatment, especially your third time, people are watching you. And so Satan will say, you're too dirty. Look what you've done. And so you have to be brave and you have to be bold and know that something good is going to come from surrounding yourself with godly women. So I went to a Bible study. In fact, they were the ones that threw me a surprise first-year sobriety party. And Rhonda even said, I've never been to a sobriety party. And they loved on me, and it was a place I could share things, because just because I got sober, I wasn't well on the inside. I had to learn that I have anxiety that is crippling. I I compare myself to women. I covet. I want what somebody else has. I wish we had that nice truck. I wish I had this. So I still have what we call in meetings would be character defects. And so just because I quit drinking, there's still so much to learn about myself and things that I have to, just like all of us.
I was just going to say, do you think that all women kind of suffer from that? Because I see you as a mom, and it's like, gosh, I wish I could kind of be that mom, Yeah.
I have, I get so angry at the boys that it just makes me shake with anger. There are things I deal with, and what I've learned is we all have things. We see on Facebook and things like that, the perfect picture, because that's what we share. We don't want to share the ugly. But there are things behind the scenes that are happening, and it's normal. Because if we were perfect, our desire is to be like Christ, so we're always getting better in some area. I'm trying to get better, not losing my temper and saying bad words. Somebody else might be dealing with something else. So just to realize there's always room for improvement, that every woman is dealing with something. The other important thing is to pray. This is when I'm going to talk about my mom. She prayed me through years of behaviors. She watched me slowly fade. The girl she knew as a young girl that she loved dearly. I'm her firstborn, and she watched that. I would drop the boys off, run to get groceries, and come back, and she knew that I'd been to the liquor store, and she would send the boys home with me and just pray we got home okay. And we were in a family session when I was in treatment, and the counselor said, "Why didn't you call her in? Why didn't you just call the cops?" And she said, "I just prayed that everything would get better." And she, I think, looked at her like she was crazy. That woman praying for me saved my life, and nobody will ever tell me differently. Corey's mom and sisters, his family praying for me, my friends praying for me. Prayer is so powerful. And when you're humble enough to ask people to come alongside and pray, I still have two gals, Rhonda's one of them, and that all say, "Hey, when we took this job, I said, would you pray about this? Help me." And so you have to have those people come alongside. And that takes vulnerability. But the more you're around women who generally care about you, and you'll find those people, not everyone is, but you'll find those people in your circle. You might have to even reach out and go to a church or something, but you have to be willing to do that. God will help you get sober, but here on earth, we have to reach out for those people to come alongside us.
I think, we talked about this a little bit before we started today, Chateece. Everybody has or bears their own thing, right? Especially women. How we deal with things is different. As we get older, have babies, our hormones change, and none of us are living the perfect life. It is just like you said. Everybody's dealing with something different, and finding yourself and finding the ability to cope with what you're dealing with is the battle that we all struggle with. I didn't necessarily start Coffee with a Cowgirl to help women, but that is what it's become, because everybody thinks that they're rowing their boat by themselves, but they're not. Somebody else is living their same story, same situation. And I truly believe that your story has so much power, and the words that you spoke today are going to help somebody deal with something. I know that this was not easy. I can't thank you enough for sharing what you did. It's probably not fun to talk about, to relive it. But at the same time, I know that you know too that it gives somebody else a little bit of hope, inspiration, and faith. So thank you, Chateece.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Is there anything that you would like to add with your story?
Or
thank or
advice? I did want to say this. It's a little bit of a funny also, but it's important, I think, that you not be offended by people need time. We talk about living amends, and that is that you can say I'm sorry and I won't drink again, but the people who love you and the people around town need to see that. So living every day, showing up sober, not drinking, your actions speak volumes. And so I've done that and tried to do that and keep that in the back of my head. I always tell anybody that I'm talking to that I carry a breathalyzer still with me, and in the early days when I'd go to a meeting or come home, I'd blow in that for Corey. In fact, one time, I think one of the little boys went to school and said, "Mom blew zeros last night." It was a good day. So you have to realize that that's part of this, and to, pray it off. It's not anything that's abnormal. I didn't have cash on hand a lot of times. I was oftentimes brought in for a hug and given a sniff, like, can we smell anything on her? My sister came, I don't know, maybe a year and a half or 2 years to visit, and she was standing beside me at the sink at our house, and she was very close, and I'm like, my word. And so I said, I haven't been drinking, quit smelling me. Well, I didn't pay attention to what she had been doing with her hands. She'd gotten engaged, and she was trying to show me her hands. And I thought she was giving me the sniff down. So those are kind of things that I just, looking back in those first years, I recommend getting busy. I would clean out closets, and also if you're dealing with anxiety, that's a real thing. I've talked to my doctor just recently about it because it can be consuming. And there's no shame in saying, especially this move. I cleaned out my classroom. I left a job I loved, my students, the faculty, our family, my friends. And we branded the last week, and I fed 20 people night and day for 3 days, and my kitchen wasn't packed, and we had to pack and move. So I had to ask my doctor to help me. So keep that in mind too, that there's no shame in saying, here's what I'm dealing with. And like you said earlier, our bodies change, and our chemical makeup changes, and our hormones, and so be transparent. They certainly aren't going to give you anything that will make you addicted to something else. And so surround yourself with good people who love Jesus.
One thing that we also were talking about earlier that I wanted to mention to Chateece is that, your and Corey's marriage has been through a lot, but you guys are strong. Talk about how, I see you guys, like I said, I'm sure it's not easy, but you guys are doing it, and it's good. So talk about that.
Well, in 2002, I was in Texas. I just graduated with my bachelor's degree, and I had relationships, marriages, and divorces, and I said more than one. And so I had a history of bad relationships, not always their fault, but my fault too. Always looking for something better, always looking for the cowboy. So I left a little bit brokenhearted, and I was leaving, and this sounds like a country song, but I was packed in my grandpa's pickup with a 2-horse trailer, and like the 𝚘𝚘𝚗 chair, that frame, I just vaguely remember it strapped on top, this 𝚘𝚘𝚗 base. And so that's how sad it was. And I left, and I was crying, and I said, Lord, because I had been hired in Kansas, so I was moving home, had my job where at Meade. Lord, please help me to find a Christian man, somebody who loves you more than me. And I said, P.S., please let it be a cowboy. And so I even told my dad, I said, there's not going to be anybody in this little town that doesn't already have kids or divorced or something. Well, there he was, 28-year-old Corey Rickard. And so I tell people, not often enough probably, but I prayed for him. and God gave me him. And we both have tempers, and our lives, even before we got married, it was a little tumultuous. That's what I meant. And so we liked to drink beer, and we fought hard. And we always say we love hard, we fight hard. And so he just had enough, and he sought godly counsel, and really felt like that was the only way to get my attention, was to say, I can't live like this anymore. So that divorce, though he doesn't believe in divorce, he had to take that step. And I certainly, that was just part of God's plan, I guess, to go ahead and take that step of filing. And that moment when I came home and there were no more secrets really opened up our marriage. You must have Christian counseling. And we had that. And then we worked hard, and he really worked hard. We have been asked to share our testimony. We've never been up to do that at a church in Oklahoma, and just for him to speak about forgiveness, because I don't even know. And some people might be listening now thinking, yeah, that's me. My wife or husband has really led me through hell. And how am I going to forgive them? Because it hurts. It's just like having an affair with a bottle, because of the lying and the cheating and the stealing and the everything. So God has done a work in our marriage, brought us closer. There are things that we think, man, if we can do that, what can't we do? And we're not perfect, but we just have. And he's a godly man. He is a good leader of our home. He spends time in the Word, and he's been a blessing to me. And I understand, and it breaks my heart that not everybody has that. And I would say, if you're going home, you're trying to get clean or sober, and you're going home, you need to leave. And you need to find, there are places all around, find a place that's safe for you. Because you can't go back. I mean, he drinks beer every once in a while, but he doesn't drink. So I don't know that experience. And that's very common, is that both people in the house have a problem, and one gets help and the other one doesn't. So that's something that I just don't have the experience with.
So your story is so powerful, Chateece, and it's not only powerful in your story of sobriety, but it's also powerful in your story of your marriage, because I think that everybody can probably use that forgiveness, and it doesn't matter what the backline story is. Forgiveness is key in everything, and it's hard sometimes. Thank you so much for sharing what you did today. Amazing woman, amazing story, amazing family. What she did was not easy, and but I hope that maybe one thing that she said may help somebody who's watching today, or may bring light to a situation that somebody's going through. I hope it helps in some way. Before we go, Chateece, I always ask everybody one question, and that question is, what does be the cowgirl you want to be mean to you?
I feel, I don't know how to say this.
Oh no, she frozen.
Oh shoot. I can still see you, but you're frozen. Oh.
Sorry, Chateece.
That's okay.
I didn't know what happened. Technical difficulty. Okay, what is be the cowgirl you want to be mean to you?
I think it's different for everybody. I was raised, so for cowgirl, for me, I was raised on a farm. I spent most of my time on a tractor. My stepdad ran some wheat pasture cattle. And so I had experience with horses and those kind of things. I used to ride all the time with Corey, and I don't now. I let my kids be my excuse, but that's something, we have an arena here now that I want to get back into. But for me, being a cowboy's wife is about supporting this lifestyle, to share as much as I can about the cowboy life, the cowgirl life, by raising our children in that manner and teaching them respect for country and respect for the animals that we take care of. Obviously, we want them to be good horsemen, and that's something we take pride in, but it's important, I think, to have, to be a lady, whether you're in the branding pen or cooking for the hands. It's just important to be a positive role model for young girls, to surround yourself with women of all ages in the cowgirl community, and to have a sense of pride in it, and to take care of your family, take care of your man, take care of your children, because we have a lot of great things happening in our cowboy life.
Yes, we do. Great answer, Chateece. Well, thank you again for everything today. I hope everybody has a great weekend. Next week, next Thursday, I have Jan Parker. She's the manager of Billings Livestock Horse Sale on with me, telling Jan's story about how she built what Billings Livestock Horse Sale is today, how she got there, and who helped with it. So looking forward to that. We are going horse showing this weekend. I'm pretty excited to spend that time with my family on good horses. It'll be a fun time. I hope everybody has a great weekend. Thank you so much for tuning in today. And thank you again, Chateece.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.